But I do want to talk about the Giants now, and they're in a very different position. I talked about how it's not about this year for the Jets. It's very much about this year for the Giants. Daniel Jones' job very much on the line in my eyes. I think a lot of people are saying the same thing. Joe Judge has got a lot of confidence as head coach. I think a lot of people like what he's doing, and there is a lot of talent on this offense right now. And the defense is average. The defense should be able to win you games, but the question mark is with Daniel Jones and how he's going to be able to bring these pieces together. And is he going to be the guy moving forward? I think that's the talk, at least in my eyes. But Mike, I just want to get your overall perspective on this Giants team with Daniel Jones, what they're doing. How do you feel about the Giants heading into this season?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before on one-on-one. I said it on NFL Friday. I even said it when we did the open to the show today. To me, this is a huge make or break year for so many people involved with the Giants. I mean, first off, Dave Gettleman, he's been here long enough. The Giants have yet to make the playoffs under his regime. To me, it's either they make the playoffs this year or he's gone. I haven't really been particularly impressed with too many of his draft picks. I mean, some of them haven't really worked out as well as others. I mean, you think about even last year, Andrew Thomas. I mean, you watch the way that he had a subpar rookie season, in my opinion. Then you watch the way that he plays in the preseason. He doesn't look very solid. He's getting beat on the edge there. So, I mean, that's just an example, again, of a Dave Gettleman pick that seems kind of a head scratcher. Another one this year, Kadarius Toney. I mean, I don't want to pump up my own team too much, but I think the comparison with Kadarius is that he's got the Tyreek Hill speed, but I think a lot of people agree that he was not the best receiver on the board at that point. Elijah Moore is just one of the receivers that, a lot of people thought it might have been a reach. So there's been some questionable decisions on Gettleman's part, and a lot of them have yet to pay off. So for me, if the Giants are making the playoffs this year, Gettleman's got to go. And then in conjunction with that, of course, one of Gettleman's most infamous picks, Daniel Jones. I mean, he had a very solid rookie year. I'm not going to deny that. Fumbles were a huge issue his rookie season, but despite that, he was in the contention for offensive rookie of the year. I understand. But last year was just such a putrid season for Daniel Jones. I mean, more interceptions, fumbles. I mean, it was just a putrid performance. I know you can say that there were injuries. There was no Saquon last year, offensive line subpar. I get all that. But to me, it just, I don't trust Daniel Jones. And my thing is, next year's quarterback class coming out of college doesn't look that great. It's just, Jones also has no more excuses. They brought in Kenny Golladay. I don't really necessarily agree with the Kadarius Toney pick, but he's a weapon. They already had Sterling Shepard. They have Evan Ingram. They have Darius Slayton. Defensively, they have one of the top defenses. I think they're going to have a top 10 defense in the league. You also have, Saquon Barkley coming back this year, bringing Kyle Rudolph, also tight end. To me, all the pieces are there. They have an incredibly talented roster. If this team doesn't succeed, it's because of one man, and that's Daniel Jones. And I don't see him succeeding. And if that's the case, if they don't make the playoffs and he doesn't show a bounce back season from his sophomore season, I don't know how you can bring him back as the starter, the surefire starter.
Yeah, there's really no way to bring him back. I mean, just comparing 2021 seasons, for Daniel Jones, down in yards, 13 less touchdowns, and virtually the same amount of attempts, only 20 less attempts in 2021. So he's really taken a step back in his league. He has less interceptions. His completion percentage went up, but just overall with the eye test as well, he was not the same player he was. He had 2 game-winning drives in 2020, none in 2021. He really wasn't that guy for them. And they lost a lot of close games last year. I mean, just a few to mind. They lost a shootout with Dallas. They lost the Thursday night game with Philly, and they lost the Bucs game, which they had the lead going into the fourth quarter. So Daniel Jones really needs to hold on to these games, and that's the biggest thing for me moving forward. And I think that's going to be a really thing you're going to have to see from him this year in 2021. And he's got the talent, like you mentioned, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram at tight end has had some drop issues, but he's still one of the better tight ends in the league. You get Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, the verdict's still out on him, but you do add him to the wide receiver core. So this is a really, really deep unit, and you get a healthy Saquon back, or at least you hope he's going to be healthy by week 1. That's a lot of weapons for Daniel Jones. So although the line is a big question mark still, the weapons are there for him to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely there for him to succeed. I think just another thing to think about when it comes to, Dave Gettleman and Daniel Jones, Gettleman, this is his 4th season now, and honestly, this is my biggest concern with Gettleman and the Giants. And I saw it happen with the Jets, and I say this all the time, but I just feel like it's a point that needs to be made. Gettleman, he's entering his 4th season. His first season with with the Giants 2018. He drafts Saquon, which I think many thought was a questionable pick because that was the draft. If we're going to get a quarterback, I mean, Josh Allen, Lamar, Baker Mayfield, maybe even Darnold if he went somewhere else, it would have worked out better. Instead of take Saquon, Eli is kind of, shows that he's still declining. And I mean, Saquon's great. Don't get me wrong, but was it really worth that second round pick in that quarterback class? Then you look at 2019, he gets Daniel Jones. So a lot of people thought it was an overreach for that pick. They had 2 picks in that first round that year, if you remember. I mean, whatever. And then 2020 with Andrew Thomas, and now he's entering 2021. It's just Gettleman has had a lot of questionable decisions. But this is my point. I think after 2020, after 2019, before they brought in Joe Judge for the 2020 season, that would have been the time to get rid of Gettleman because he had shown the red flags by that point. But now you have Gettleman in here. He's been here long enough. He's on the make or break year. But you have a coach in Joe Judge who's a very solid coach who I think has proven that he can stay around and be the coach for the long term. But the simple fact is, if you fire Gettleman, and you say to any potential GM candidate, we want to bring you in, but Judge has only been here for a couple of years. We think it's too soon to fire him. Well, guess what? A lot of qualified GM candidates are not going to be saddled with a head coach. They're going to want to pick their own guy, and that's what happened with the Jets and with Rex Ryan and John Idzik and that whole debacle. And that set the Jets back for years, at least 5 years. It set them back. And so with the Giants, I know Joe Judge is a good coach. But, to be honest, I thought Rex was a good coach, too. I mean, the guy went to 2 AFC championships. And the simple fact is that forced marriage between him and Idzik blew up in the Jets' face. Joe Judge, even if he's a good coach, if there's a GM in here who's forced to work with him, or a GM who's underqualified, and the only reason he got the job is because no qualified GM wanted to be forced to head coach, could that blow up too? My biggest concern, and the reason why if I'm a Jet fan, I'm more hopeful right now, to be honest, or maybe a little more comfortable with my situation, is because the Jets, the coach, the GM, the quarterback are all on the same timeline. Your quarterback here is on the hot seat for the Giants, in my opinion. Your GM's on the hot seat, but your coach isn't. And now you have guys at different points. You have Gettleman in year 4. You have Daniel Jones in year 3. You have Joe Judge in year 2. All different tracks and timelines. And if you're trying to fix this organization, you're going to be swapping out pieces. And the thing is, they better hope to make the playoffs, because if they don't, it's going to get real messy.
Yeah, I do agree. I think Gettleman is really on this hot seat, and there's been a lot of questionable decisions he has made. Think about the Eli Manning moves and such that sort. But I also think there has been, there's some positive. You think about Patrick Graham, and he's been a huge difference maker in the defense improvements from 2019 to 2020. I mean, Giants ranked 12th in yards allowed and 9th in points given up, which is a vast improvement on the year prior in 2019. So the defense has made strides, but the overall control Gettleman's have of this franchise and this team. And I always view that when you bring in a new head coach, you want to bring a new general manager as well. And that's why it should have made sense to pair the Judge Jones move with the Gettleman, take out Gettleman and bring in Judge as the head coach and pair him with a new general manager. But the Giants are not to do that. And you feel that there could be a move with Daniel Jones and Gettleman coming. If one were to go, probably both would go. And a lot of it's just going to come down to the play of Daniel Jones. How is he going to work? And is this offensive line going to be enough for him to be able to succeed? Because I really think the weapons are there. I think the defense is above average, but I'm a little concerned about the offensive line and the quarterback play. So I think that's going to really be a big thing for the Giants. I do want to wrap this segment up before we go. I want to give a little shout out. This year's schedule, they play Sunday, September 12th against Denver. They are away there. So that is going to be their first game. And if you're the Giants, you want to get that first win on the board before you start seeing your divisional opponents. Washington will be the following week on Thursday night.